Vincent Price, um nome que será sempre associado ao terror, ao sinistro, ao macabro. Dos galãs que interpretou no início da carreira, aos vilões assustadores que marcaram definitivamente seu trabalho de ator, Price atuou em 100 filmes. O GNT mostra agora o especial Vincent Price, Minha Vida e Crimes.
I'm Vincent Price.
Ele era um homem renascentista com senso de humor. Ator, escritor, marido, pai, um colecionador de arte que via o aspecto artístico em todas as coisas. Um gourmet que amava cachorro-quente. Sua carreira durou 7 décadas, abrangendo o rádio, a televisão, o palco da Broadway, shows, desenhos animados e rock and roll. O público dos cinemas vai se lembrar de Vincent Price como o mestre da ameaça. Desde o início de sua carreira hollywoodiana, em 1939, sua voz e sua atitude impressionante foram sinônimo de uma atividade perversa. Este homem ardente, gentil e gracioso sofreu em seus últimos anos devido a uma doença debilitante que o levou na noite de 30 de outubro de 1993 e a morte de sua terceira esposa, a atriz Coral Brown, em 1991. Mas deixou o seu testamento para o terror, um debate com o historiador David Del Valle sobre os filmes que transformaram Vincent Price num nome que conjura os sorrisos mais sinistros.
These were romantic films with a gothic overtone, both The Invisible Man and The House of Seven Gates. And actually, most of the ones I've done have been in the tradition of the Gothic novel.
Well, now when you came back from New York, you went to Universal again and did a picture that would associate you with 2 gentlemen that would follow you through your career, and that is Boris Karloff and Basil Rathbone.
Yes,
The Tower of London.
Tower of London.
Now, how did that come about?
Well, I wanted to get established playing character parts because I really didn't think I fit in the mold of leading man in the terms of Hollywood at that time. So I talked them into letting me do a smaller part. So I can't remember what it was. I think I was offered the part that Ian Hunter played, the king.
Oh, I see.
But I much preferred the other role. And then, of course, after this comes in Boris Karloff, the executioner, and they throw me into a great vat of wine.
Now, I think you told me that vat had been used for other things before.
Boris and Basil were kidding me. You know, they're saying, "What are you going to do in that vat? It's, you know, it's all such clean water and everything." So they said, "We'll fix you." And they kept throwing cigarette butts and old Coca-Cola bottles and anything they could find lying around the set was thrown into this vat. And when I got thrown into it, I had to go down to the bottom of it and hold on to an iron railing and hold on long enough for them to let the lid down and play a scene. And I said, "Well, what if the lid gets stuck?" And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we've got men with axes." Well, the thing was about this thick, and it did get stuck. But they both had an enormous sense of humor about themselves. And I think it's a saving grace for anybody that has to play villains, is to have a sense of humor about yourself. Boris found it hysterical. I'll never forget the first day I met him. He had one shoe that was built up and the other was built up less, so that he sort of wobbled. And he had a pretty peculiar walk anyway, and his head was shaved, and he had a sort of hump on his back, and he had his little daughter on his shoulder. And he said, "Just want you to know that I'm not as mean as I appear."
Had you seen the original?
Oh, yes, indeed. And Claude Rains was a great, great favorite of mine. And I thought that the script was excellent because it really took up where the other one left off. I mean, so many sequels have nothing to do with the original picture at all.
I think I can leave any moment I like.
Here, you can't go upstairs.
But this really was a sequel of events.
Take care of yourself, darling.
I'll be all right. Don't look at me like that.
Matt, I wanted to ask you about John Fulton, the special effects man, because he is legendary. He did Frankenstein, The Mummy.
He looked like a businessman from downtown Los Angeles. He had absolutely no artistic look or peculiar look in any way. He was the most sort of ordinary businessman-looking man, and he took his work as a business. And he created all those wonderful effects in the original Invisible Man and in mine, too. But in those days, you had to be dressed in black velvet, and the camera was anchored firmly, let me tell you. And then you played the scene the way you would play it, you know, with your regular clothes on, and then you turned to the black velvet, and you got into a black velvet suit, and they covered the whole set, everything with black velvet, so that you disappeared, and then the two films were composited. It took forever. There's a scene in a cornfield where I undressed a scarecrow to become visible, and it took 8 hours to do that scene, which lasted about less than a minute on the screen. I went back to New York and did several plays, and then I did a play which really sort of established me as a villain. A very famous play called Angel Street, called Gaslight. They made the film called Gaslight from it with Boyer and Ingrid Bergman. Laura really made two extraordinary careers, three. It made Clifton, because it was his first picture. And it certainly made Dana. And Jean was on her way, but this was what really established her as a great star. There is this underlying evil in all these characters that Otto really captured.
On a hunt, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm Shelby Carpenter. Want to dance?
I'm not alone.
Oh, you poor girl. I bet he still does the polka.
Yes, Betsy Ross taught it to me. As a matter of fact, she was going to the country to think it over.
It's a good picture.
She was extremely kind, but I was always sure she would never have thrown her life away on a male beauty in distress.
Every woman will feel that when it comes to
I
men,
played so many gentle men at the beginning of my career that I suddenly wanted to play some villains, and so I got kind of stuck in villains.
Don't worry. I told you I'd bring in the killer today.
This I haven't seen for years.
Cool. No, I can't tell you now. I'm not alone. You'll see when I come in.
Careful, cautious Richard. Destroying everything he is for the sake of a cheap
Get away from that
You ask
phone,
for it, and you're
Margaret.
going to get it.
Leave that
I'll
phone
enjoy
alone,
telling your
Margaret.
friends
Leave that
you're
phone
not
alone.
if you're not too stupid.
And so this was really the beginning of the late wife movement. Vincent
Yes,
Price.
yes.
If they weren't dead in the first three.
I got rid of them by the second,
That's right,
absolutely.
that's right. But it was, of course, House of Wax that began the association with film audiences of you as a master of terror. This was a real turning point for you because you could have gone to Broadway and done We're No Angels.
I had to make up my mind whether I was going to become a movie star, actor, or whether I would go back and continue my career in the theater. I've never known quite which was the right thing to do, but I would love to have done the play, but the people who did the play, it didn't mean anything to them at all. It was a great hit, the play, and didn't help them at all in their career, whereas House of Wax did change my life. It's one of the great Hollywood stories, is that it was when they wanted a director for it, they hired a man with one eye who couldn't see 3D at all. Andre de Toth was a very good director, but he really was the wrong director for 3D because he couldn't see. And he'd go to the rushes and he'd say, well, what are they doing? Why is everybody so excited about this? You know, well, it didn't mean anything to him. But he made a good picture. He made essentially a very good thriller. And the tricks were just happened. I mean, there weren't a lot of them. Later on, they threw everything at everybody.
shouldn't have done that, my dear.
It is, Kathy.
But now your co-star in that, Phyllis Kirk,
she was one of them.
Told me that she honestly did not know what your makeup was going to be like.
No, I know it.
And that you really frightened her.
I don't blame her. It frightened me. I don't believe altogether in the makeups. This one absolutely required it because he was burnt. And this was the frightening thing, that it scarred not only his face, but his mind. And it was a very, very great makeup by George Bow, who was one of the great makeup men and didn't get any credit for it because his brother was head of the department at Warner Brothers, Gordon Bow. But I used to get on the air and say it was George Bow who did the makeup because I'd spent months with him, really. Every morning at 5 o'clock, I'd get there. Charlie Bronson was the deaf-mute. Igor. Charlie Bashinsky was his name. I've always tried to pin him down to say, wasn't this really one of your very first pictures? I think it may have been his first picture.
I don't recall seeing
No,
that.
I don't think so, but he was wonderful. He had this great face. We are immortalized in the Wax Museum at Buena Park, Charlie and I.
Now, is it true that one evening, for lack of anything better to do, you went down there and replaced your own image?
Yes.
And frightened?
Yes, scared the daylights out of the people. I love doing things like that. I must say it's really fun. It's the only thing that makes playing villains bearable is to make fun of them.
Well, now, this film begat another one called The Mad Magician.
Yes.
Now, that was virtually a remaking, in a way, of the first one, because you're crazed.
But it was a different idea. He killed people, but then he made himself up to look like the people that he'd killed, which was really kind of fun. And two of the people that I killed and made myself up to look like were great friends of mine. But it was fun to do, and terrible makeup jobs, again, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a good script.
Well, why don't you laugh now? You left your bag at the studio and took mine by mistake. Where is it?
Oh, Don,
What's the matter? What have you done with it?
I left it in the cab.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about, mister. I gave it to a cop.
You gave it to a cop.
What was in that bag, Don?
It was a head. A human head.
Who are you? You're not Ross. Good.
Yes.
It's all right, Don. You don't have to worry about me. I would never turn you in.
My poor dear Claire. Don't you know I wouldn't dare trust you?
One of the actors had never done a screen fight before, and you know, if you follow what the doubles tell you to do and the stunt people tell you to do, you'll never get hurt. But he was absolutely paralyzed, and he didn't watch them, and he thought he could fake it and know how to do it. But he didn't. He picked up the wrong table, one that was not made out of balsa wood, and hit me over the head and just smashed my nose all over my face.
Oh, my God.
Well, it hurt.
And for ages afterwards, you had little bits of wood.
Little bits of wood I was picking out of my head, and then finally I had to have plastic surgery because I couldn't breathe.
Ladies and gentlemen, we present His Satanic Majesty, the Devil.
Beautiful, isn't it? Fair. Trouble with you, Mrs. Scratch, is that you know nothing about painting.
I've never pretended to be an art expert.
You did several other cameos and things in the 50s.
Yeah.
But it was your work with William Castle, The Tingler,
Yeah.
House on Haunted Hill.
Those were the only two I did with him.
You did too.
But he was extraordinary. You know, Bill really was... I read an article just the other day. I was on an airline going to Florida. And the article in the airline magazine was Whatever Happened to Showbiz. And it was an article about Bill Castle. This is only, you know, Bill's been dead a long time. And it was about the gimmicks that he pulled. Emergo, which was in the House on Haunted Hill.
I'm Vincent Price. You're invited to my party in the House on Haunted Hill.
where so far the ghosts have murdered only 7 people. So won't you come and make it 8? Will he hurt you?
He would kill me if he could.
So far tonight, one of us was almost killed by a falling chandelier. One of us has been driven to the brink of absolute hysteria, and one of us is dead. Were these accidents? Suicide? And we must stay here for 6 more hours.
You ready?
No.
Are you ready, dear?
Yes. Damn you.
And the tingler, which he wired the seats with little buzzers.
I'm William Castle, and I feel obligated to warn you about the next attraction you will see at this theater. The picture is The Tingler, which I directed. And for the first time in motion picture history, members of the audience, including you, will actually play a part in the picture. You will feel some of the physical reactions, the shocking sensations experienced by the actors on the screen. I guarantee that The Tingler has more shocks per minute than my last film, The House on Haunted Hill.
He had a great sense of showmanship, and I must say he was fun to work with. He was a good director. He wasn't a great movie director, but he knew how to put this kind of film together.
Scream for your lives! The Tingler is used in this theater.
I mean, he had wonderful wild ideas, like the house on Haunted Hill. I invite all these people to my haunted house. Well, he couldn't find a haunted house that pleased him, so he took one of the most famous Frank Lloyd Wright houses here in Hollywood and made this the modern house, the house, you know, the haunted house. But he had wonderful wild ideas. I liked Phil. He was a very nice man.
Well, now, those pictures really put your name over the title as this was the horror star syndrome beginning, you know, from House of Wax and now the Bill Castle movies. But we come to one picture which, like House of Wax, made a fortune and also was like a household word.
Will everyone in the theater hold on firmly to his seat, please?
Stop it! Stop it!
I'm Vincent Price. What unearthly horror did that girl gaze upon? What manner of incredible thing walked beneath that hood? It would be unfair at this time to show you any more of what went on in that laboratory where a man actually dared to play God. So fantastic, words can't begin to describe it. You must see it with your own eyes to believe it. When the Fly comes your way.
That was written by Jim Clavell, who then went on to write Saigon and Taiwan and Shogun and everything else. It was a prize short story in Esquire, Playboy. And I thought it was a wonderful film. It was entertaining and great fun.
It isn't like any other fly I've ever seen.
No! 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 Please look at the fly. I've killed Andre. Please help me. Call the police and...
The charge could only be murder.
We're no mistresses. I had no lovers.
Why did you kill him?
God, don't let it get out.
Inspector, it's in the garden. Come quickly.
But it was fun to do because Bart Marshall, Herbert Marshall, and the two of us really were hysterical, you know, at the thought of having to play a scene in front of this little tableau that was going on. Oh, it was impossible to shoot, you know. I mean, here's this idiot thing saying, help me, and this spider who jumpity jump, and then people would still come up and say, help me.
So is my witness. I saw the thing. It's unbelievable. I shall never forget that scream as long as I live.
Watch out for it.
Jeff Goldblum wrote me a letter when his version of The Fly came out and said, I hope you like it as much as I liked yours. which I thought was terribly sweet. I'd never met him, and I wrote him back. And I went to see it, of course, his version. I think it was wonderful right up to a certain point at the end.
I hope it's the donut sequence is the one I
Yes,
couldn't get
no,
over.
that went a little too far. And it becomes funny, and this really it didn't. It became a moralistic thing again, you know, which really a good horror film must have a kind of moralistic thing in it. Frankenstein's the greatest example of it. I mean, the moral is do not tamper with God's work. And that's what Mary Wollstonecraft wrote, and what I think Boris brought to the film.
This is the son of the original fly, daring to explore the forbidden science of transmigration that brought horrible death to his father, as his weird experiments spawned the twisted monstrosities of a living hell.
No, it was ridiculous to shoot it in black and white. I love black and white, but I mean, you do two pictures in black and white, not one in color and the other in black and white. But it was not a bad film. It was quite exciting, as a matter of fact.
Suppose he does come here. What if Philippe does not have the mind of a human, but the murderous brain of the fly?
Now, what possessed you to do the bat? Was it?
Well, I thought that they would revive it and bring it up to date, because when I was a little kid, I had seen the bat on the stage, and it just frightened me to death, and I thought maybe it could have that same kind of hold on an audience, but it didn't, because it wasn't a good script.
Look, Doctor, the woods are on fire. It's coming this way. We've got to get out of here. Out the back way.
We will. As soon as I provide that body we were talking about.
It's a wonderful story, but it doesn't really hold up.
All right, now only be a second. My maid was bitten by a bat.
Oh?
A rabid bat?
Well, I'll know for sure when I get to my lab. I caught the bat.
It happened indoors?
In my bedroom.
How'd it get in?
Well, there are many ways a bat could get in a house.
You ought to know.
Agnes was marvelous, actually. She was a wonderful actress. I did go out on tour with her in Don Juan in Hell. I took over from Charles Lawton. Played about 20 weeks with Boyer and Cedric Hardwick. And I think there comes a time in your career, in everybody's career, as you read about the actors that have made it in Hollywood, there comes a point where you suddenly say, money isn't everything. I want to take a gamble on something I believe in. I believe that the works of Edgar Allan Poe had never really been properly done. And I got to know Richard Matheson, who wrote the script. And I thought he had captured the essence of Poe, not Poe necessarily, because it's very difficult to turn a short story into a long picture.
Hundreds of years, evil thoughts and evil deeds have been committed within these walls. The house itself is evil now.
Here they all are. Ushers.
This is monstrous. Oh, Madeline, come away with me now.
Sam Arkoff and Jim Nicholson seemed dedicated to letting Roger have his head. And Roger had proved himself a really brilliant fledgling filmmaker, and this was his chance to really show it.
But it was your idea to dye your hair
Yes,
white?
because he was a man who had been in prison in his house. He would have turned white like a newt.
Where is she? Where is she? You buried your own sister alive?
I did. But she's dead now.
Happy scene.
The master hand of the macabre creates its masterpiece.
Depois do intervalo, você vai saber por que o mestre do terror nunca fez o papel do Conde Drácula. Nós voltamos já já.
Marcel Duchamp, um homem que revolucionou a cultura oficial quando transformou objetos do cotidiano em trabalhos artísticos. obras espirituosas que sacudiram os conceitos de arte no século XX e até hoje influenciam artistas em todo o mundo. Grandes nomes. Marcel Duchamp. Dia 30, 10 da noite, no GNT. Força da cultura negra. Da África à Bahia, Gilberto Gil reconstrói a trajetória do primeiro homem a descobrir a verdadeira origem da cultura baiana.
Ai, menina, você se mete com Vergé? Tu não sabe que Vergé é bruxo?
Pierre Fatumbi Vergé, mensageiro entre dois mundos. Novembro, no GNT.
Convidado para fazer Drácula no cinema, Vincent Price não aceitou. O motivo você vai saber a seguir na segunda parte do especial Vincent Price, Minha Vida e Crimes.
Roger was very exciting to work with. I really enjoyed all the pictures. And Roger had a genius for hiring wonderful people. Really wonderful people. His cameraman, Floyd Crosby, was brilliant man. Danny Haller, the set decorator. Everybody in Marge Corso who did the costumes. It was really, he had this extraordinary talent of hiring the best people, which is really the secret of all great directors' success.
The mutilated victims became the music of his life. The blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken, flesh burned black.
Nicholas.
Is that you, Elizabeth? While we were up here mourning her, she was alive. Struggling to be free.
That's a pretty wild performance.
That's pretty hokey. Yeah.
I'm going to torture you, Isabella. I'm going to make you suffer for your faithlessness to me. You harlot!
You will feel in your very blood.
Do you know where you are, Bartholomew? You are about to enter hell.
I think that the major thing in a spooky film or a thriller of any kind is logic. You must believe that what is happening, and you must believe it. Because if you don't, there's no fright. It's what I think is wrong today with some of the fright films, is that they have no logic at all. I mean, things begin happening at the very first scene, and they don't end until everybody has been destroyed.
You will meet the master of the mansion, who loved and protected his wife with the strength of a supernatural love, even beyond life itself.
I am in command here. You will do as I say. I shall take what I desire. Your body and your soul if I demand it.
Enough!
Now, what would you say changed about Basil from the 30s to when you worked with him at AIP?
Well, I think he was very disillusioned. He was very bitter because he really had been a great star, and people kind of forget that because they think of him as Sherlock Holmes or they think of him as a villain. But he had been a great Shakespearean actor, a great star in the theater and in movies, and he suddenly found himself, as we all did, when Jimmy Dean and Marlon Brando and those people came out, and it was a kind of speaking in the vernacular, and all of us spoke with trained accents and trained English, and theatrically we were different in our approach to acting. And if you wanted to stay in the business, you bloody well went into costume pictures and stayed in costume pictures. And we did, and we all did very well with them, but we didn't fit into the other group. And Basil rather resented that.
It all started at the Vintners Convention, where the lover of wine met the professional wine taster and introduced him to his wife, a darling.